Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Shimmery. Today I'll be doing my 5-star predictions update from earlier this year. Before I get started, if you're new to this channel, please don't hesitate to subscribe down below. But I'm excited to kind of go into the books that I predicted were 5 stars, and let's see if whether or not they actually were 5 stars or not. I'm not going to spend too much time going into the synopsis or like all my thoughts about the books, because I did talk about them quite a number of times throughout the year, and I did a couple of reading vlogs dedicated to reading some of these books as well. So I don't want to like rehash everything all over again, but this is kind of a video for me to compile my original list and just doing an update and seeing if my predictions were accurate or not. I don't believe this is in any order, but the first book I want to talk about is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. This book, unfortunately, I only gave 4 stars. I had really high expectations for this book because I absolutely love House on Cerulean Sea. I felt like this book just didn't quite give me as much of a connection with the characters or the plot. I still really enjoyed it overall. It just didn't quite live up to my love compared to the first book. Next book I picked up is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book to the Crescent City series. This book I gave 5 stars, so I'm very happy that this did meet my 5-star prediction, and this was everything. I loved everything about it. I feel like a lot of people who did really enjoy her previous books didn't really like this book too much. I do agree that this book was a little bit lengthy and could have been shortened, but I love the characters, I love the story, I just loved everything about it. So for me personally, I still really enjoyed it. This is still a 5-star read. I do think that objectively her books are usually more like 3.5 stars to 4 stars just in terms of the writing, but in terms of my enjoyment and everything and my like fondness of it from a long time ago, especially for some of her previous books, it's like a nostalgic factor. I feel like this is still a 5-star read for me. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I also love the ending and kind of just seeing how things might continue on with the world that she's created with her other series. So I'm curious to see like how they connect in the future. Next book I picked up is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lin Tan. This book I gave 4 stars, but honestly I feel like the more I think about it, this is more like a 4.5 star read. I really enjoy the characters, the world building, the magic system. I love the lushness of her writing and just like the gorgeousness of her detailing things. I just loved all of that. I think the reason why I didn't give it 5 stars was because I think when I was reading it, something felt lacking. I don't remember what that was. I just remember being like, this is really good, but that was it. But then like the more I kept thinking about it and the more I've been talking about it with my friends and everything, the more I'm like, this is more inching up to like a 4.5 stars, like possibly even 5 stars. So I don't know, I just really enjoyed this book. I really enjoy the writing and everything, and I cannot wait to read the sequel soon. So even though this didn't quite make my 5-star prediction, this is pretty freaking damn close. Next book I want to talk about is Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This book I only gave 4 stars. I had super high expectations for this book because I have enjoyed her books in the past. I think I gave the other books I read from her 5 stars, so I obviously assumed that this would be a 5-star read as well. Unfortunately, that was not the case. I do think this was probably the most disappointing book I read from this author. That being said though, I still really enjoy the mystery element. I still really enjoy like the characters and everything, and just kind of the build up, but it just didn't have that wow factor like it did for the other ones. I also think that if I remember correctly, since I've read this like in the beginning of the year, I think like this book didn't have that like ghostly paranormal element that she had for her other books. So I don't know if maybe that's the reason why, because those books definitely gave me like a wow shock factor and this book did not. So I don't know, maybe that's the case, who knows. But that being said though, I still enjoy this book. It just wasn't quite a 5-star read. Next book I picked up is This Woven Kingdom by Tahara Mafi. This book I gave only 3.5 stars. This is probably one that I could have bumped into 4 stars. I just wish that the main character, the guy, was better developed. So this book does follow 2 characters, and it's like very clear to a lot of readers as well as me that the female main character was well fleshed out, had a great personality, had a lot of character development, whereas the male character, he was just like there. And even though he was a main character, he gave off like background character vibe and energy. So I don't know, I feel like that was like the main reason why I felt like this book just didn't quite do its justice compared to the other books I read by Tahereh Mafi, and just like what I know that she has the capability to write in her characters, because I really enjoy Shadowme series, I really enjoy her other books, that this one was just very subpar compared to what I've read from her previously. Next book I picked up is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I did talk about this a little bit more in my catching up reading vlog, but this book I gave 4 stars. I feel like I've been talking about the book a lot in the past couple weeks because a lot of these videos have come out at the same time, but I enjoyed the books. I do think that the characters were a little off in terms of how they were perceived versus how they truly are in terms of their age. They felt a lot more immature and they came across as such, but they're actually in their like late 20s, early 30s. So I felt like they could have been more adult, more mature in their writing and just their tone, but that wasn't really the case. I think that's my biggest issue with this book. But I really enjoy the writing. I love the story. I love kind of like the magical element to it. I'm super hesitant about picking up the sequel, mainly because I won't have my matching Illumicrate copy, but I don't know, we'll see. I'm still on the fence about that. That being said though, this book was 4 stars, but it could have easily been 4.5 stars, possibly even 5 stars if the characters were just written a little better. Next book on here is one I don't even really want to talk about, and that is Jade City. This book I DNF'd, so like there's really not much to talk about. I think I got through like 50 pages or so and I was like, this book is just not it. I had really high hopes for it just because so many people love the series. Like the trilogy just been raved about throughout the internet, and I picked it up and I was like, no. So that's all I can really say because I barely went through it. I just didn't care for the characters. I didn't care for the magic system. The build-up was, I don't want to say slow because I remember it being kind of like action-packed, but for whatever reason I was not able to connect with the book and I just couldn't get invested. So I ended up DNFing it because I was like, can't do it anymore. So yeah, 5-star predictions. Didn't even finish it. Next book I picked up is Winter Keep by Kristen Cashore. This book I ended up giving 4 stars. I also talked about this a little bit more in my catching up reading vlog, so again I'll link that above and down below in case you want to check that out. But this was good. I do think that the writing just felt a little bit more immature. I do think it's because I am starting to grow out of young adult books, and probably that's why. And I did read the original trilogy back in high school, so I don't really think it's the author's fault or anything like that. I just think that I am just getting older, unfortunately. But I still really enjoy the characters. I really enjoyed the plot, and it was just very nostalgic to kind of get back into the world of Gracelings or Graces, and seeing like Bitterblue again because she was a main character towards the second half of the series. So just very nostalgic to kind of go through all the characters and kind of like enter that world again. So I give this book 4 stars, but I think if I had read this back in high school, it would probably still be a 5-star read for me. Okay, so I DNF'd one book, which is already not great, but then I read one book that was the worst book I read this year, and that is Jade Fire Gold by June C.L. Tan. This one I gave 1.5 stars, so obviously not the greatest. I didn't care for the characters, I didn't care for the plot, I didn't love the writing. It was just a hot mess of a book. My biggest issue was the romance in here and just how slow the book was. I talked about this a lot more already in my worst books of 2022. I talked about this in my catching up reading vlog, but it was just a hot mess, guys. Like I feel like I've been just like regurgitating the same thing over and over again, but there was no romance, guys. Like this is one prime example of why sometimes romances should not be in YA books. Like there's no need for them sometimes, and I feel like without it, it could have been a lot stronger. Then the last and final book I picked up is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. I did have 2 Sarah J Maas books in this 5-star prediction video, and I'm happy to say that this was also 5 stars. Again, I want to say that her writing and like objectively speaking, this is more of a 4-star read. I just love Cassian and Rhysand and like everyone else that I was like 5-star read. I'm not the biggest fan of Nesta, and I feel like my interest in her dimmed after her like the novella came out, but then reading this book I started to understand her character so much more, and like I became much more empathetic to kind of like her actions and like the reason why she did certain things. And I feel like this book made her seem more real and you understand her so much more. And I feel like as the book progresses, the other characters start to understand her as well. And before, she was just very like aloof, very standoffish, very cold, and then, you know, this book happened, and then you feel like you realize that there is a reason behind everything. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the character development. She's still not my favorite character, but I at least understand her a lot more after this book. So really happy that I read this book as well. So anyway, these are all the 5-star predictions books that I predicted earlier this year. I only had 2 true 5-star reads, and then I had 2 or 3 that were potentially 5 stars but ended up being like 4.5 stars instead. Potentially they could have been 5 stars, but just due to circumstances they felt a little bit flat for me. And then there were like 2 that were just god awful, like 1 DNF and 1 worst book of the year. So definitely not the best track record in terms of my 5-star predictions, but here's to hoping that my next 5-star predictions video, which should be up I think next week hopefully, will have better results end of this year. That is the biggest goal. But anyways, that's the say for this video. Let me know down below if you have read any of these books before, and if you did, what did you guys think? Were they 5-star reads for you, or did you have similar thoughts as I did? But as always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and just help out my channel. And if you'd like to see more content of me, please don't hesitate to subscribe down below, as well as hit the notification bell. And as always, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.